Hey, I'm Noel with Noel's Frags, and today I'm going to be talking about Gucci Envy and its friends. I've tried a handful of Gucci's over the years. In more recent years, the Gucci Guilty lines, and I ended up buying a bottle of Gucci Guilty Oud and Gucci Guilty Absolute. Really liked those, thought they were pretty unique. I had tried the Gucci Ohms a long time ago. I had a bottle. Wasn't really anything to write home about for me. So there's like this whole stigma, like this forbidden fruit thing that like Gucci likes to pump into their names, like guilty, envy, sloth, gluttony. I'm just naming sins at this point. Is Gucci a devil worshipping house? But Gucci Envy is a discontinued fragrance. That's why I have a decant instead of a full bottle. A full bottle of this goes for $200 and up. Like, I've never seen a full bottle, like in the past year or so that I've been looking around, just like whenever I come across it, I've never seen a bottle go for less than $200 in like the past year. It's probably significantly more I'm sure if you go on eBay or browse the fragrance groups, you could see it go for stupid prices. More than I'm willing to pay for a fragrance that I think is good, but not 300 plus good. Being discontinued and being so expensive, some of the clone houses saw a market. You got Alexandria's Invidia and Dua's Covet. And I kind of did a little comparison the past few days. So this is Gucci Envy in a decant. You have a lot going on under this fragrance. The two notes that stick out the most to me is ginger in the front, tobacco in the back. It's the weirdest mullet combination ever, but it works. It's very reminiscent of Tom Ford fragrances, because Tom Ford was the head of design, this is when Tom Ford was with Gucci. This fragrance came out. So you'll definitely see similarities between Tom Ford fragrances and this fragrance. Like tobacco, very reminiscent of Tom Ford tobaccos. Like it's like a staple. Like when I smell like tobacco vanille or tobacco oud, or it's just, it's a Tom Ford tobacco. It's very distinct to me. You have pepper, vetiver, and it gets incensey, but not like super smoky incensey in the dry down. But you can smell the incense as well. So it's kind of a cooler weather fragrance, despite the ginger, the fresh ginger in the front. It's not light. I wouldn't call it fresh. The fragrance overall, the opening is really nice. You get a blast of freshness, but it is not a fresh fragrance. But with it being discontinued and the prices being so exorbitant on a bottle, like, I wasn't gonna pull the trigger and shell out for, this discontinued thing. You don't know how it's stored, you don't know if they've kept it well, you don't know if the top notes are still good, so I opted to try the clones. Went with Dua and Alexandria. So, Invidia, Invidia. Is it Italian? I don't know. But Invidia and Covet. So if I'm ranking these on closeness alone, I would say Alexandria hit a little closer. But surprisingly, neither of these are as close as I thought, because I've had several fragrances from Dua. I enjoy their concept line, which is where they mash up a couple of fragrances, two. Sometimes I think they have ones where it's like three. They mash up fragrances, and those are good. I enjoy layering. I used to layer Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait and Aventus, and they had a concept series of that, and it smelled awesome. It smelled very spot on. Their Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait clone is really, really close. So I actually got a bottle of that. So they're usually pretty on point. Alexandria, I have a couple other fragrances from them. My favorite being Zion, which is their take on Elysium. It's not the same. I wouldn't say it's like a one-to-one. Elysium has a lot more going on in it by comparison to Zion, but I'm gonna catch some flack for this. I like Zion more. I said it. It's a little fresher, a little more straight to the point, and it lasts forever. It is crazy longevity. So I figured 2 clone houses that I enjoy the fragrances of would do a great job with comparing to Envy. Surprisingly, they weren't that close. Like they weren't as close as their other takes. Covet doesn't quite, it opens up fresher than Invidia, but it has some sort of modern aspect to it. There's something very familiar with a lot of current designers. It's just this air of freshness and like department story. I don't know, but it kind of deviates from that robust ginger in the open and kind of goes with this modern take. Invidia, a little closer in the open, not as sparkling of ginger, and as it moves into the dry down, it's a little closer, but both are lacking that depth, that rich, Tom Ford classic tobacco, like accord, like just missing, Alexandria upped their game and got these cool little wooden caps instead of the plastic ones they used to have. Let's see if you can, little insignia on the top. But yeah, they're extracts, both of which are extracts. The presentation's minimalistic. You got the little wooden cap, sprays well. Then you have the Dua, comes in these 30 milliliter decants. Like you can get these bottles and use them for decanting your own fragrances. I don't think this screws off. I actually tried screwing it off earlier just to see, because I want to smell it like right off the bottle. Didn't twist off, so maybe they started pressing them. Yeah, so 30 milliliter. The presentations, it kind of comes with this typical like flashy modern label that Dua does. Dua does do that. Close, but no cigar. Because of the tobacco, I'll see myself out. When it comes to projection and longevity, once again, I don't know if these fragrances are just too new, like produced too recently. I've gotten both of these about a month ago, so they've only sat for a few weeks, and neither of them just like I'm used to. Dua, usually it sings and lasts forever and just comes off. And then my experience with Zion, I had sprayed it on a shirt and it threw it in the hamper, and I went back to that shirt a week later. It's not that dirty. It was just like, for a few hours, threw it in the hamper. Like, it's not that dirty. I can wear week-old clothes. Don't judge me. I threw it back on, and it still smelled like Zion. It still had that freshness to it. And we're talking days later sitting in a hamper. So the longevity is better with Covet. Not so much with Invidia. You're getting, 6 hours, like 7 or 8. Neither of which are really like pumping it out there. The original probably lasts 8+ hours because that dry down, that like the base of the fragrance is so much more prominent and it just holds up better. Neither of which really nailed the base, so I think that kind of affects the longevity. Gucci Envy in the first place isn't a fragrance I reached for often. When I have the decant, kind of just wear it when I'm in a certain mood. I live in Atlanta, so it's pretty hot here all the time. Winter is only, like cooler months is very limited. So usually I gravitate towards fresher or more like all-weather stuff. So I wasn't wearing Gucci Envy a lot in the first place, so I don't know what I'm gonna do with 60 milliliters of extrait clones. I might part with them at some point just because I don't think I'm gonna wear them frequently enough. What I would wear, and it's in a similar vein to Gucci Envy, is Tom Ford for Men. So this fragrance is more of the fresh. Like if you took the guts out of Envy, you get this. So it opens up with that fresh ginger, some citrus playing around there, not really like distinguishable citrus, but like some citrus. I don't know if it's some orange or maybe a touch of bergamot, but ginger, citrus with woodsiness. It's not a rich, heavy tobacco, maybe like some sprinkling of tobacco, but it's a much fresher take. It's in the same realm. It's not a clone. Like Tom Ford didn't just like bring Envy over to his house and say this is it. But you can see the similarities. You can draw the comparisons, and you can see you're like, oh yeah, Tom Ford when he was managing Gucci, Tom Ford had his own label. You can draw the comparisons. If we're ranking, who's closer? Overall, I would say Alexandria is a little closer. They get closer with the depth of Envy, but not as much. I would say the open is a little better, not much with Covet. So I'd say Invidia from Alexandria is closer and Covet is close behind, but neither of which are 1-to-1. I can't confidently say either of them is like, yep, that's it. If you liked Gucci Envy when it was in production, or maybe you stumble across a decant or your bottle's running low, these are definitely worth checking out. If you're looking to try clones from a discontinued fragrance, those are some good options. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, throw me a like, maybe a subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.